in defense of my honor and with due deference to those concerned.
In 1949, a company belonging to Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe and his family bought a bank in Lagos. The bank was bought with the intention to have a bank controlled by a black Nigerian, which will serve the interest of other Nigerians. Because then, banks were owned and controlled by the British. So Azikiwe desired to have a bank that Africans can call their own, which would break the British banking monopoly in Nigeria. The name of the bank then was African Continental Bank. However, after some years, a report about transactions carried out by the bank showed that although Nnamdi Azikiwe had resigned as chairman of the bank when he took office as the premier of Eastern Region in 1954, but the active chairman of the bank, as at the time of the report, was his friend. The report revealed that most of the paid-up capital of the bank were from the Eastern Regional Financial Corporation. So a tribunal was set up to investigate the matter. It was headed by the then Nigeria's Chief Justice, Sir Foster Sutton, and was called the Foster Sutton Tribunal. The tribunal found out that while serving as the premier of Eastern Region, Nnamdi Azikiwe had transferred public money, which was about 1/4 of the whole 1955-1956 revenue of the Eastern Region, to his own bank in order to save the bank from collapse. Corruption did not start from there. In fact, let's start from the beginning. Before Nnamdi Azikiwe's corruption case, in 1943, Sir Ahmadu Bello was sentenced to 1 year in prison by the Sultan of Sokoto's court for misappropriating cattle tax which he collected from cattle owners in Gusau region in present-day Zamfara state, where he was the councillor. However, he spent only 3 months in jail. As he appealed the sentence in a higher court, stating his innocence, the court later granted him freedom. Few years after independence, in 1962, Chief Obafemi Awolowo was found guilty by a commission of inquiry known as Justice Coker Commission for using the Western region's money to finance the promotion and activities of his party, the Action Group. The Coker Commission found out that Awolowo mismanaged and diverted funds totaling over £6 million from the Western Region Marketing Board to finance political activities. All these were corruption cases that had connection to the founding fathers of Nigeria. But corruption was firstly introduced in Nigeria way back in 1914 when Nigeria became a country. Just a few months after the amalgamation of Southern and Northern Nigeria, the British contractors and traders introduced what they called contract percentage into the Nigerian trade system. What is this contract percentage? Contract percentage was the extra money contractors and traders were making from every contract awarded. For instance, if Mr. John is a building contractor, he would approach Mr. Ben, who is a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Works, for a contract to build a 10-kilometer road in Lagos. Mr. Ben would then tell Mr. John to add an extra percent to the cost of the contract, let's say like 15 or 20%, which would be given to him as his own reward for awarding the contract to him. The 15 or 20% extra cost on the contract would be given to Mr. Ben, who awarded the contract to Mr. John, when Mr. Ben received the payment from the government or organization that awarded the contract. That was how the British introduced the first phase of corruption in Nigeria. This process of awarding contracts by government officials and private organizations still persists till date in Nigeria. The third chapters of corruption happened when large sums of money suddenly disappeared from the accounts of government agencies, commissions, and parastatals. It happened between 1976 and 1979. The Nigerian oil sector lost $2.8 billion. Muhammadu Buhari was the Federal Commissioner for Petroleum and Natural Resources when this happened. Again, during the Gulf War, the same Nigeria oil sector lost $12.4 billion under General Ibrahim Babangida's regime. These huge sums of money were not accounted for by both administrations. A recent attempt through a lawsuit by a civil society group to bring Babangida to account for the money which got missing under his watch was struck out by a federal high court in Abuja. Additionally, the fourth origin of corruption in Nigeria was done through a decree called the Land Use Decree, which is today known as the Land Use Act. How did it happen? For instance, there was a federal government program called Operation Feed the Nation, and there was another called Green Revolution. These programs were designed to make Nigeria a food-producing nation. Millions of hectares of land were seized from Nigerians to be used for farming, which will help make food available. Hundreds of billions of naira was mapped out to purchase tractors and build farm settlements for these programs. But a few years after, Operation Feed the Nation and the Green Revolution was taken over by individuals. Those lands are now used as individual properties instead of serving the purpose it was taken for. Up to today, chairmen of local government councils, governors, presidents are hiding under the Land Use Act to steal millions of hectares of land from helpless Nigerians. In a similar way, corruption in Nigeria now has a new shape, where governors and presidents are stealing public funds through loans. They obtain questionable large loans for development. Just a few years after the loan, the project won't be completed and the loan balance has been mismanaged. No good infrastructure to show for such loans. They would leave the state or country with debts and uncompleted projects. So these have been the different waves of corruption in Nigeria for years. Do I need to inform you about the new height of corruption in Nigeria, where animals are now used to steal money from the government? These animals are either humans in animal form, or they are just stories created to cover up the stolen fund. Because how would a government ministry or agency keep such amount of money in an office? What is the duty of banks? Even the banks are not to be trusted.
$2.1 billion. Billion, not $2 million, were voted for military hardware and software for the operations against Boko Haram. Those responsible sat down as if they were going to have lunch or dinner and shared it and put it in their accounts.
Thank you for your time.